We live in a world just clamoring for attention. So how do you become the signal in all that noise?
Mm.
How do you build real connections and make a lasting impact when it feels like everyone's shouting for the same slice of attention?
Yeah, that's the core challenge, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it's precisely what we're diving into today. Forget the surface level stuff.
Right.
We're exploring the deep, authentic roots of personal branding.
Exactly. We've been digging into Chris Arnold's Beyond the Logo, the Brand Within, and our goal in this deep dive, tailored just for you, is to pull out those really potent insights, the ones that go beyond the usual branding talk.
Yeah.
Think of this as your accelerated path to understanding what truly makes a personal brand work.
And what's really compelling about Arnold's angle is his background. I mean, he's gone from coaching peak performance, with someone like Sir Nick Faldo,
Wow.
to guiding professionals, realtors, all sorts, to find their unique brand essence. His focus isn't on creating an image. It's about uncovering the potential that's already there.
Okay. So if you're listening and looking to amplify your impact or maybe strengthen your relationships or just figure out how to talk about your distinct value, you're in the right place.
Yeah.
We're aiming for those aha moments that really stick. Okay, let's get into it. When Arnold talks personal brand, what's the crucial thing he says it isn't? Because it's clearly more than just a logo or a tagline.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's really keen to clear up some common mix-ups first. Personal brand isn't just your reputation.
Right.
Reputation is basically what others think of you, right? And that can change. It can be taken away.
Out of your control, sort of.
Exactly. And it's also not micro-celebrity, that sort of fleeting fame you can get online.
Right, that 15 minutes.
Yeah, that. Nor is it just visibility,
Hmm.
churning out content constantly, but without a real core message behind it.
Empty calories, almost?
Kind of. And importantly, it's not just your image either. Like the awards, the reviews, those things are great, but they're external validation, not the brand itself.
Okay, right. So if we strip all that away,
Hmm.
what is the core definition of personal brand, according to Arnold? What are we actually building here?
Okay, so at its heart, personal brand, of the way Arnold sees it, is the deliberate choice.
Yeah.
It's choosing to be transparent about who you genuinely are and to actively shape your own story in every moment, every interaction.
Actively shape it.
Yeah, it's like realizing you've got a blank page and you get to decide what goes on it. You author it. Unlike reputation, which other people give you, your brand is yours.
Yeah.
Unique as a fingerprint.
I like that. The self-authorship piece, that feels empowering. So if we're the authors, where does the writing begin? It sounds like this idea of authenticity is step one. He even calls it a superpower. Why such a strong word?
Well, yeah, superpower is strong, but I think it resonates because of the world we're in now. We're just swimming in these perfectly curated, sometimes fake online profiles. And in that kind of environment, just being genuinely you, that becomes incredibly powerful. It stands out. He defines authenticity pretty simply. Just being true to your own spirit, your own character.
It really hits home that pressure we all feel, especially online, doesn't it? To put forward this polished, perfect version.
Oh, absolutely. And Arnold points out the sheer effort involved in keeping up that facade.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And it feeds that whole comparison trap, which, let's be honest, just makes us feel insecure. His point is, if you're not grounded in who you really are, you get sort of stuck. Stuck in the middle, chasing some ideal that isn't even yours. The freedom, he says, comes from just embracing who you are and trying to be the best version of that person.
Okay, so besides just feeling better, maybe less stressed, what are the actual, tangible benefits of being authentic? How does it help build that brand?
Well, think about it. When you're authentic, you naturally attract people who connect with the real you.
Right. Your people.
Exactly. So you foster deeper relationships built on actual trust, not some performance. And when you stop trying so hard to project an image, you actually find more inner peace. You can relax into yourself.
That sounds nice.
It is. And interestingly, he says, your willingness to be, vulnerable, even show imperfections that can actually inspire other people.
Huh. That's counterintuitive, isn't it? That our flaws could be a connection point.
Yeah, but it makes sense, right? We connect with real humans. And it also fuels creativity because you're not boxing yourself in with external expectations.
Okay.
It builds resilience too because your foundation is solid. It's your truth. And fundamentally, living authentically means your actions line up with your values. That brings a real sense of fulfillment. Arnold really hammers home the power of just owning who you are, warts and all.
Okay, you mentioned values there. Aligning actions with values. That sounds crucial too. Why is understanding our core values so important for personal branding?
This gets right to the heart of it, really,
Yeah.
to the essence of our character. Arnold brings up Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous line about being judged by the content of our character.
Right.
And he argues our core values are the content of our character. They define who we are at the deepest level.
So how do we figure out what those values are? Is it like some big, intense retreat we need to go on?
Uh-huh. No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Arnold makes it clear there's no single right set of values, and they might even shift a bit over time.
Okay.
The key thing is just the process of looking inward,
Yeah.
understanding your guiding principles, what really matters to you. How do you try to operate in the world? What lines won't you cross?
So it's more about self-awareness.
Exactly. And once you have that clarity, how does knowing your values help build the brand and connections?
Yeah. How does that translate?
Well, this is where it gets powerful. Shared values create this immediate sense of affinity, like attracts,
Yeah.
when your values click with someone else's, it just builds trust and understanding much faster.
Mm-hmm.
It leads to stronger relationships, better collaboration. It's basically how you find your tribe people who share your compass.
Okay, finding the tribe. I like that. So we know who we are. We know what we stand for. The next step seems to be actually sharing that, which brings us to transparency. But man, in a world where everyone's curating everything, being truly transparent feels risky.
It absolutely can feel risky. Arnold totally gets that. Being transparent, having the guts to share your values, your beliefs, maybe even some struggles, it makes you vulnerable.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to like it. Not everyone will agree. That's the risk.
Yeah.
But the alternative is what? Hiding behind a mask.
Right, which we already said is exhausting.
Exactly. So what's the upside? Why take that risk?
Yeah, what are the compelling reasons?
Well, what's fascinating is how transparency breeds transparency. The more open you are, the safer you make it for others to be open with you.
Reciprocity.
Kind of, yeah. It builds trust on a much deeper level.
Yeah.
And think about the online world. So much curation, so much polish. Genuine transparency can feel, well, revolutionary. People are actually craving that real connection.
So it's not about oversharing every single detail of your breakfast.
No, definitely not. Arnold's clear. Transparency isn't about seeking validation or spilling everything. It's rooted in self-assurance, integrity.
Okay.
By being willing to share your journey, the good and the bad, you invite people to connect on a human level. It builds empathy. He really sees it as a major differentiator. It pulls in people who resonate with your real self, building a loyal community.
But you still might face criticism.
Oh, sure. That's part of the deal with vulnerability. But the point is, by being true to yourself, you attract the right people for you, the ones who get it. Ultimately, he argues, transparency is a cornerstone for real connection and fulfillment, even if it means being brave.
Okay. Being brave. So we've talked about knowing ourselves, sharing ourselves, but Arnold also really emphasizes that our actions have to match our words. This idea he calls congruency. Why is that alignment so vital?
Congruency, or walking the talk, as he puts it. This is where the rubber meets the road for personal branding.
Right.
It's that essential harmony between what you say you believe and how you actually behave. When your actions consistently back up your words, it builds this rock-solid foundation of trust and credibility.
And the opposite is also true, right? If there's a mismatch.
Exactly. Any big disconnect, trust evaporates
Yeah.
quickly. It really highlights that old saying, people watch your feet more than your lips.
Yeah, actions speak louder.
Totally. Arnold argues that when you genuinely embody your values, it just radiates authenticity. It's naturally attractive. Plus, living congruently brings inner peace, right? You feel aligned, purposeful.
Whereas if you're saying one thing and doing another.
It creates internal conflict, that feeling of being a bit of a fraud, maybe.
Yeah, I can see that.
He also points out how important congruency is for building strong communities.
Yeah.
Communities thrive when they're based on shared values and people acting consistently on those values.
Makes sense. Authenticity and transparency kind of set the stage, but congruency is what makes it stick long term. Now, he also talks about ego, which that's a tricky one for a lot of people.
Yeah, ego's a big topic.
Yeah.
What's interesting is Arnold's take isn't just ego bad. He defines it as that inner voice, that narrative shaping our thoughts and actions.
Okay.
The caution is about letting ego run the show. That's when you can get into needing constant validation, maybe even those narcissistic tendencies, that inflated sense of self that's often hiding deep insecurity. He mentions Mo Gadot's experience. Huge success. But the happiness driven by ego was fleeting.
He brings in Freud, too, doesn't he? Something about the ego not being master.
Yeah, the ego is not master in its own house. Which kind of highlights that we're not always fully aware of how much our ego is pulling the strings,
Yeah.
the conscious versus unconscious stuff.
Right.
But again, Arnold doesn't say ego is the enemy. He argues a healthy ego, one grounded in self-awareness and empathy, can actually be a powerful force for growth and connection. He uses that series saying, quote, "It's time to come out of our shells and trust ourselves." It suggests finding that balanced self-belief, but not letting ego take over.
Okay, so it's about managing the ego, not killing it. That's helpful. Another really key idea is self-worth. How does our inner sense of value connect to building a strong brand?
He starts that chapter with a really powerful line. People will never rise above the opinion of themselves.
Wow.
And
Okay.
he defines self-worth as that deep, intrinsic belief in your value just as a person. It's totally separate from what other people think or external achievements. He critiques what he calls the hamster wheel of mediocrity, that constant chase for outside approval that never really satisfies.
So if it doesn't come from outside praise or achievements, where does true self-worth come from?
It has to be internal, cultivated from within. It comes from self-acceptance, self-love, self-respect, recognizing your own inherent value, your unique strengths. Arnold argues that when you have that solid sense of self-worth, it fuels your authenticity and confidence naturally.
And that comes across to others.
Absolutely. When you operate from self-worth, your interactions tend to be more empathetic, kinder, more respectful. He also gives some practical advice, things like self-care, self-compassion, challenging that inner critic, living by your values, all ways to build it up.
It really sounds like that inner foundation of self-worth is essential for a brand that's both strong and, well, attractive in a genuine way. Now, Arnold also pushes back against this common idea of conformity. Why does he see fitting in as a problem?
Yeah, he really challenges that default assumption that fitting in equals success or acceptance. He points to Solomon Ash's classic conformity experiment.
Oh, yeah, the line test thing.
That's the one, where people would give the obviously wrong answer just because everyone else did. Arnold argues that real change, real innovation, usually comes from the outliers, the ones who dare to be different. He uses Steve Jobs as a classic example.
Right, someone who definitely didn't conform. He also talks about how we're kind of trained from young to seek approval, to fit in. That pressure is real.
It really is. We're social creatures, wired for connection. But Arnold makes the point that the in crowd, whoever they are, they don't have all the answers. Often they're just as insecure as anyone else. So while fitting in might feel safer in the moment, he argues that real distinction, real impact, comes from embracing what makes you unique. Standing out takes courage, sure, but he concludes that fitting in will never make you truly stand out. He really encourages people to be brave enough to be different, to be authentic.
So celebrate the uniqueness, even if it feels uncomfortable sometimes. That ties right back to authenticity. Okay, moving on. He discusses unlocking your potential. What's his angle on how we actually do that?
Well, Arnold sees potential as more than just raw talent we're putting in the hours. He believes it's fundamentally rooted in desire.
Desire.
Yeah, like that deep, burning longing to make a difference, combined with a really clear vision of what you want to achieve. He suggests many people don't reach their potential simply because they lack that intense desire or a compelling vision to pull them forward.
He uses that sculptor analogy, right? With the marble.
Exactly. The sculptor might have the skill, the talent to carve, but it's the vision of the final statue inside the marble that fuels the passion and actually brings that potential out.
I like that visual.
Yeah, me too. And he gives steps. Looking inward to find your passions. Really nurturing those desires with determination. Being willing to step outside your comfort zone, learn, grow, push through obstacles. He really believes that potential's in everyone, but you have to actively cultivate the desire and the vision to unleash it.
Okay, desire and vision. Got it. Now, the next chapter title is definitely a head-turner. Why competition is for losers. That one made me stop. What's he getting at there?
Yeah, it's provocative. He's channeling Peter Thiel there. The idea isn't literally that competing makes you a loser, but that if you build a truly compelling personal brand, a message that really resonates, you attract the people who are right for you, the ones who get it. And that makes head-to-head competition less relevant. He argues that constantly comparing yourself, fighting for the same scraps as everyone else, that's like being a commodity. It's a purgatory of comparison.
So it's about creating your own unique space instead of just fighting over the existing territory.
Exactly. He talks about the problems with a purely competitive mindset, like being judged by metrics or people who don't even understand what you really do. He brings in Simon Sinek's idea of finite versus infinite games.
Right. Finite games have winners and losers, fixed rules. Infinite games just keep going.
Precisely. And Arnold argues business, life, personal growth, these are often infinite games, but we approach them with this finite win-lose mindset. He points out how too much focus on competition can hurt integrity, create toxic environments, and actually slow down progress, because everyone's playing a zero-sum game with a scarcity mentality.
So what's the alternative?
Shift to an abundance mindset. Play the infinite game, focused on giving value, on your own contribution. He wraps it up by saying competition is often a rat race. Even if you win, you're still a rat. He urges listeners to rise above that.
Wow. That's a huge perspective shift. Okay, finally, he brings it all together with the power of personal branding. What are the main takeaways he leaves us with?
He really positions personal branding as this engine for ongoing success. It turns marketing, often an expense like advertising, into this business asset that just keeps working for you, spreading organically.
Huh.
He points to historical figures, sure, but also modern ones like Elon Musk, Richard Branson, people whose brand is a huge part of their impact. Musk spent zero on Tesla advertising, right?
Remarkable.
Arnold emphasizes that investing in your personal brand isn't really about money. It's about belief. Believing in your character, standing tall in your authenticity, resisting that pull to conform.
He uses that phrase, a masterpiece painted by your own hand.
Yeah, beautiful, isn't it? He stresses it takes time for self-reflection more than a big budget. He sees it as this thread weaving together your past, present, and future. It creates your legacy, your way of saying, I was here, this is what I stood for. He includes that Tony Robbins quote, the only limit to your impact is your imagination and commitment. Ultimately, he says personal branding is about self-expression, empowerment, fulfillment. It's like your armor against mediocrity. And he ends with that great thought, what we chase runs away better to attract it.
Okay, wow. So if we try to boil all that down, synthesize everything we've just explored, what's the absolute core message about building a personal brand that really works?
I think the core message is that real, effective personal branding isn't about tactics or trends or faking it till you make it. It's really an ongoing journey of being truly, authentically you. It's about deeply understanding your values, communicating them honestly, and building genuine connections based on it. Arnold's argument is that this approach isn't just, nicer. It's actually far more powerful and sustainable in the long run.
Right. More meaningful, too, it sounds like. So for someone listening right now, what's maybe one tangible, actionable thing they could do today to start putting these ideas into practice?
Okay, a good, simple starting point could be this. Identify just one core value that really, truly resonates with you. Just one.
Okay.
Then spend a little time thinking, how can I communicate that value more intentionally? Maybe in a conversation today, an email I write, a social media post, just bringing conscious awareness to it. Another good exercise might be reflecting on your origin story. What experiences really shaped who you are?
That's really practical. Just pick one value and think about living it out loud, basically. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Your unique story, told honestly, that's your greatest asset. Don't hide the imperfections. By embracing your genuine self, you unlock your real power to connect and make an impact. So the question is, what story is only you capable of telling?
And if this sparks something for you, we definitely recommend checking out Chris Arnold's book, Beyond the Logo, The Brand Within. You can go much deeper into all these ideas and see how they apply specifically to your world.